Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for this warm welcome here. Changing the narrative with mindfulness and compassion. Narrative and context are powerful elements. They shape the world around you and your life experiences. Two people can witness or experience the same event, yet conclude very different things based on the lens of their own narrative and their own context. What if people of different backgrounds and cultures embraced the same narrative? Is this even possible? I actually think it is possible if it's done with mindfulness and compassion. Now, I know you don't know these people, or at least I don't think you know these people, but these are my relatives. They represent the generations before me. And some of them are living and active in my life right now, and others have graduated from this life experience and have become my ancestors. And the different experiences that they have shaped their life and the narrative that they embrace. So, for example, if you look on the bottom row towards the right, the picture in gray, the couple right there, that's my grandparents. I used to call them affectionately Big Mama and Big Daddy. This is North Carolina here. I grew up in Virginia. North Carolina is where I spent a lot of time as well. And they were big influences in my life. They were entrepreneurs. They actually owned a dry cleaning business. The business started in the 1940s and it continued all the way up until the early to mid 1990s. So roughly 50 years. This is North Carolina in the height of the Jim Crow era. And so they were actually a pillar in the local community because they offered dry cleaning services to the local Black population. One other thing that was huge was Another thing that was huge with them as well is that they were local influencers in their community. They were community organizers for Dr. Martin Luther King during that time period. And so with all the big speeches, obviously, that Dr. King gave, where a lot of the activation happened was literally on the ground, working with people like my grandparents, people who were influencers in the community, to do different things to help change the narrative on topics like the importance of voter registration and things like that. And so, along with that, just with the dry cleaning business that they had, it actually afforded my mom, my aunt, and both my uncles the economic opportunity to pursue college. And so, it was an engine in that regard and actually impacted me because I'm the next generation after that. But it all came from that narrative. And so, their context, Jim Crow era, 1950s, 60s, etc., they chose a different narrative as opposed to accepting a narrative that was placed on them. The power of context and narrative. Now, that's just one story. There are a bunch of other stories behind these different pictures here, but that's just a quick example of what's behind me, because those types of stories and experiences are embedded in me, and it actually is a part of my narrative and how I show up. And so I stand on the shoulders of these giants, and from these giants came me. That's me right there. Yeah. And so, like all of you, and we actually talked about this earlier in some of the other talks, when it comes to intersectionality, I have different levels of intersectionality. And so if you like literally look at me right now, you can tell a couple things. You know, I'm a person of color, right? I'm taller than most, right? I might be the tallest person in here, but you know, you get what I'm saying here. I'm of African descent. You know, those are just some quick things that you can gather just at a glance from me. All right. But what's beneath the surface is much, much more. Similar to like a metaphor of an iceberg. You know, if an iceberg that's out in the ocean, you know, you can only see a little bit at the top, but there's a ton literally underneath the surface that's there. And the important piece is to consider the whole person and the whole self. And so this visual here are just a couple of other elements of just different things that you may or may not notice about me if you were to glance at me. All right. So first thing is musician. So growing up, I learned how to play the piano, starting at 5 years old, lasting until about age 15, 16 years old. Also learned how to play the saxophone. In high school, I was in the marching band, jazz band. So I know my way around a music sheet and a couple different instruments and knowing how to do that. I also do dabble in some singing, a cappella singing, stuff like that. I'm a veteran, was active duty in the Navy for 5.5 years. I'm an entrepreneur, taking that from my grandparents, taking a lot of those same genes. And I'm a husband as well. This coming December, it'll be our 25th wedding anniversary. So doing it for a while. Other things, Afrofuturist. And so for those of you who don't know, Afrofuturism, to keep it really, really quick, is the ability to imagine futures where all perspectives matter and no perspectives are marginalized. And if you take that thought and you put that into an American Western context, that's actually a big, big deal, because typically the way that works is the more dominant point of view tends to rise to the top, and marginalized views or views that are, discriminated against tend to be muted out. But from an Afrofuturist point of view, and this is a pattern that maps all the way back to ancient Africa, it's a totally inclusive point of view. So that's a quick snapshot of what Afrofuturism is. I'm a father, 3 kids, 3 adult kids, plant-based eating. So that's something that I've gotten into over the last about 3.5, 4 years, of just an idea of how can I continue to pay attention to my body with what I'm eating to help my body just have a big chance at longevity as much as possible. So plant-based eating is that. Few other things. My brother and uncle, and then the LG and the junior piece. So I'm actually Larry Jr. I'm little Larry. My dad's Big Larry. And LG is my nickname. So those are a few of the things there. I'm the oldest of 4 in terms of family stuff. Mentor, coach, son, friend, cis male, data junkie. I love a good data spreadsheet. I can navigate my way around that. I love crunching numbers and being able to storytell around what those numbers mean to help to influence and talk about what's going on for whatever the topic is. Coach, some sports coaching stuff, mentoring relationships. Student, teacher, Christian. So student piece, the learning never stops. So a big shout out to my friends and family up at UC Berkeley. I do a lot of executive education courses there. Then also on the teaching side, I do some part-time teaching at the Haas School of Business up there too. And then athlete, I'm a old athlete, but I try to just go well-being now when it comes to the physical piece there. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the last piece is just Christian, so I subscribe to the principles of Christianity. And more specifically, I really try to focus on my relationship with God or the Creator versus over-indexing on a relationship with religion, quote unquote, because there are a number of things that can get very slippery and very controversial with that. If you overlay a historical lens on that, there's a whole nother, set of things that come from that. So I just really try to focus on my relationship with the Creator and all of the amazing things that are out there that just prove, in my view, that the Creator exists and how I interact with that. So those are just a few samples, and there's much, much more. I could have put in even more things, but it would have filled up the slide. But the point of this is that there's more than meets the eye. There are some things that you can see about me right now, but there's much, much more that is underneath. And so it's important to consider the whole person, because if you only consider what you see, or a small portion of which, you can begin to create a particular narrative, and you can put that on somebody, and that can actually impact their life. So for example, in the 1990s, the American government described people who literally looked like me and had my culture as a super predator. And that's a direct quote from somebody very, very famous and very, very powerful. People who look like me are a menace to society. A man who looked like me was forced to carry a narrative that I was someone to be feared. A man who looked like me was forced to carry the narrative that I have nothing good to offer. I was burdened with the narrative that my chances of being incarcerated were much higher and more disproportionate to someone who didn't look like me. I was burdened with the narrative that I would have limited access to different opportunities, and sooner or later I would have to navigate different forms of microaggressions and just have to try to internalize it and just keep going and do whatever I can to not flip out. So instead of being the predator, as that picture says, I actually felt like the prey. But then I realized something. The power of mindfulness can dramatically affect your life experience. It gives you a window to understand what is being motivated by fear and what is being motivated by love. And so by resisting that narrative that was placed on me, and through a lot of healing work that continues even to this day, and being born into a strong and wonderful family, having amazing examples like I showed you a couple slides ago, the work continues, and I'm literally trying to become that, a superpower. And that's part of the reason why I'm actually dressed the way I am. I'm really trying to change that narrative. And it's a long journey. I'm not complete with it, but it's something that I want to embrace because the power of narrative and context is a really critical and important thing. Before I continue here, I did want to go ahead and just answer a couple questions that might be floating in your head. During the break, I was talking to a couple people about this. So if you look at me, I'm 6'8". So that might be there. Might be a question there. I can play basketball, right? It's all good. It's all good. And I can slam dunk as well, right? So there's some things. So hopefully it answered a few questions there. And these are a couple pictures from the old days, quote unquote, with me. I played basketball at the United States Naval Academy. And that's a snapshot of back when I could really jump back then. But the point is that basketball has been a huge part of my life. I used to play basketball, as I mentioned, and actually now what I do to stay close to the game is I actually work with a lot of young players of all different skill ranges and ages. A couple players that I've worked with are in the NBA right now, and so it's an amazing thing to be able to give back and pay forward my life experiences in that way. And the special thing about sports is that, we work on different skills about the techniques of the game, but it can quickly turn into a life and narrative conversation. And that's where the magic really happens. Normally when it comes to sports workouts and stuff like that, I'm normally on Saturday mornings, I'm normally working out with a bunch of young players up in the Bay Area. And it's neat because this weekend we canceled everything because I'm down here. But a bunch of them, texted me and just said, hey, we're actually at the park doing our drills like you said before. We just wanted to send you some energy and all that. And I just love that. It just really, really moves my heart. So great job, young players, if you're watching with that. And I'll be back next week. So there are a number of life stories and lessons that I've experienced from the game, and I've synthesized them into this framework from the Bruce Lee philosophy that we mentioned in the beginning. So I've synthesized them into a framework that I wanted to share with you today. All right, so the first part of this framework is about two elements: being in position and being ready. When you're in position and when you're ready, some magical things can happen. And the aspect of this is the individual ownership component of this framework. It's doing your part, owning what you need to own so that you can show up in the best way for others. And that's basically what it's about. And so I got a visual here, being in position. It points to, again, the personal and professional development of things, your learning journey, and the learning never stops. It always continues, and having a growth mindset. The next piece is being ready. And this points to I call it the conditioning piece. So having the right set of routines, behaviors, the right people around you, having the right conversations, having that type of consistency happening in your life so that just like this with this Venn diagram illustration here, so those things begin to overlap. And when you are consistently in position and when you are consistently ready, that's when you have the best chance to make a winning play. And quote unquote, what is a winning play? In a basketball situation, it could be getting the ball in the right person's hands at the right time so you can score, just like last night with the game, or in life, doing the right skills that you need, for the amazing talks that we've had earlier today and the days before here in this conference, taking those things so that you can personally get in position, practicing those things, having the right things around you. And so a winning play could look like just resting, or connecting with somebody, or following up with someone. Or if you met somebody new here, having the winning play could be continuing a conversation that you started, two conversations ago in the earlier talk that happened, something like that. So it can happen in a number of different ways, being in position and being ready. And so with that, I actually wanted to do a quick activity to actually practice this. This is like a quote unquote basketball drill, all right? Don't worry if you're not a basketball player, you don't need to have any super athletic skill, all right? So with this, I actually want to have everybody stand up. And so for the sake of the video here and everybody can see me, I'm just going to get a little bit higher. And so this is called the clapping game, all right? So again, being in position and being ready. So step one, I need everybody to be able to see me. So you got to have like direct line of sight. So if you're behind somebody, it won't work. So just like make sure you can see me, all right? And the next piece is you have to be able to see my hands, okay? So this is called the clapping game. And so all you have to do is this. So see my hands, not my sleeves, magic trick, all right? So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to pass my hand over my other hand like this in a waving fashion, like a windshield wiper. And every time one hand goes over the other, you just clap, Okay, so let's try it real quick. All right, so it's here, here, and good, good. And if it stays, just keep clapping. This is my attempt to get a standing ovation right here. Yep, to turn it off. Good. In position. And right, yeah, you see where it gets fun now. We'll try it again. Nothing up my sleeve, right? Right? Hand, and. All good. All right, good. Have a seat. Very good. You got the idea. Being in position and being ready. All right, so to further illustrate this point, we're going to pull in, since we're in a basketball mood here, I'm going to pull in this quick video here. So being in position and being ready is a practical way to experience mindfulness and compassion in life. And to help us explore this, we're going to look at the Golden State Warriors. Again, they're competing for the NBA championship right now with the Boston Celtics. That's a really good series, by the way. Check it out if you can. And so this quick video clip just illustrates these points of being in position and being ready. So check it out. And the Warriors are the black team. Just notice the movement and just how the ball just continues to find them. And it always seems like they're in the right spot. We finally take a shot, then all of a sudden you get something like that, right? And so they're going to replay it a couple times here. An amazing play. So being in position and being ready for a winning play, that's a winning play right there. Constantly moving and in action like that. There we are. And a little bit of flair at the end. Yeah. Now, these players made it look easy, but there were countless hours of practice, which gets into that readiness part that goes into the preparation of what you just saw like that. And actually, the video actually doesn't necessarily give it justice, but these players are moving like literally like super, super fast. If you were on the floor or like at courtside with them, everything is literally happening at a super breakneck speed. But the preparation that they put into it helped them to be mindful of what to do literally in the moment. And then the compassion aspect of it was their willingness to literally pass the ball around and share the ball and trust that if I give it to you, you're going to do what you need to do. It could be a shot. It could be another pass. It could be a dribble to do the right thing. And that's how that relationship comes. And when you get that going consistently, it's fun. You know, the guy who did the slam dunk there, he was having fun right there. So being in position and being ready to make winning plays. Now, Winston Churchill, he had a really neat quote that reminds me of this same thing. And this quote reads like this. To each, there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Being in position and being ready to make winning plays. And now I got another little video I wanted to show you here as we're building here. So being in position and being ready. So I showed the Warriors, so I got to show the Celtics too, just to keep it even. All right. And so that's right. I'm in Los Angeles country. Uh-oh. I'll tread lightly here on my next couple of points. Yeah. So so this is the head coach of the Boston Celtics. This is Ime Udoka, head coach there. And this video illustrates how he actually got into position and got himself ready. It's a neat little story with how he became the coach. And now that he's in this leadership position, he's actually practicing and exercising the second part of this framework. And I've coined this second part as the quote unquote secret play. All right. So let's check out this.
Got to watch out from behind. Pass to Udoka. He lays it in.
Hello, this is Ime Udoka, head coach of the Boston Celtics. When I really got to the NBA and accomplished some things and made it for a few years, I wanted to give back in my community in Portland. Coaches that I played for, they mentioned that they think I'd be a coach when I'm done. They saw something in me before I did.
Udoka takes the three and hits it. Oh, this guy's solid.
I went to 3 coaching clinics that the NBPA, the Players Association, put on to get some behind-the-scenes practice and time in. I enjoyed it so much and started to think that way later in my career.
A guy who's earned everything he's gotten in life thus far, especially in his profession. Had to work his way up to an NBA roster and then did the same thing with coaching all over again. Worked his way up to the head job.
Romeo knocks down a three.
You can be a disciplinarian or anything else basketball-wise, but it's all about the relationship. And if you get them to understand how much you care about them, not just on the court, but as people, you can coach them harder, coach them the way you want to. That's the most important aspect of coaching.
Good drive, Al. Good drive, Al.
As I go throughout my career, something that you want to do is give back to the country. NBA having an office in Lagos will only help grow the sport more. I think people are starting to recognize Nigeria as a hotbed of basketball talent in Africa.
Backdoor cut, and Okoro slams it through.
Many NBA teams, there are several Nigerian players on each. Imagine Akeem Olajuwon coming, to the States back then, very raw, but with all this potential. And there's a lot of guys like that in abundance. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity and some of the coaching. You have to be taught the right way. You build all of those aspects up, and obviously you'll see many more Nigerians and Africans in general making it to the NBA. Follow your passion, find the right people. There's no substitute for that. Take advantage of every opportunity, and then lock in with your work ethic, and it can take you anywhere you want to go.
There we go. That's head coach Ime Udoka. Yeah. So Coach Udoka exercised the principles of being in position and ready as a player. And during his career, he built those special relationships, as he mentioned, that introduced the idea of him possibly becoming a coach, because he had the potential for that. And so when it comes to the secret play, which I'll explain about here in a second, Coach Udoka stepped out on courage to explore the possibility of him becoming a potential coach and what that means. And he allowed the relationships around him to mentor him and help him. And these are different acts of what I call just compassion and empathy and love when it comes to just having those special types of advisors around you. And hence, when the time came for his finest hour of his career at this point in time, he was in position and ready to become the head coach and have him in the finals right now. He's possibly could win an NBA championship here. We'll see what happens. He's going to be okay. He'll live from it. Yeah. All right. So the secret play. What is the secret play? All right. So before I actually dive into a quick recap, again, the first part of this framework, be in position, be ready, which is the individual ownership component. And then the secret play gets into the how you interact with others component, or the integrative piece, because you can't live life on your own. You can't be on an island and by yourself. Sooner or later, you have to interact with people. And the way you do it, the way I've coined it, is through the secret play. And so with that, there are 4 domains to the secret play. The first one is self. The second one is love. The third one is fear. And the fourth one is courage. And then right in the middle, you have choices. All right? And the big idea with this is that as much as you possibly can, you want to operate from a place of love and courage. And also, to be clear too, when you see the self part that's X'd out, this is not talking about self-care and all that. This is about, prioritizing yourself at the expense of others, i.e. selfishness. So you don't want to be selfish as you do that. But you do want to take care of yourself, self-care, which is actually a form of love, just to be clear on that. All right. Now, the special thing about this is that the more relationships that you have around you can help to build your awareness. And it actually helps you to be aware of, okay, am I operating from a place of fear on this topic, whatever the topic is? And if you are, you don't need to beat yourself up, get into a place of shame. Just make a different choice. Learn from it, get better at it, go back into the middle and take a detour, either to the courage side or the love side. Love and courage, those are big words. There are multiple ways love is, expressed, right? Same thing with courage. And you just keep on going. Because literally, especially in a basketball game, there's no time to beat yourself up. If you dribble the ball off your foot and it went out of bounds, you got to hurry up and get back because the other team's they're going to try to score. Especially if you're feeling guilty, that gives them a better chance to score. And this idea came up when I was actually coaching a team of middle school boys. We were in this tournament and something strange was going on. We were playing a competitive game. And the guys were doing the opposite of the Warriors video. They weren't passing the ball. like it turned out that one of them was mad at the other guy and all this stuff. And so at halftime, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, run the play, do this or do that. And then it turned into like an argument. These are middle school guys. I'm like, what's going on? And so needless to say, we actually lost that game. And so I went home and just took a step back. Like, we should have won that game, like from a talent point of view and a skill point of view and all that, but we ended up losing like a close one too. And so we had another game the next day. And so I actually sketched out a rough draft version of this. I'm like, I'm not even gonna go over the X's and O's of what we're gonna do. I want to talk about this. Self, love, fear, courage, boom. Make a choice. All right. This is literally what I want you guys to do. I don't need to tell you to run back cut screens, all the technical stuff. I just want you to play with your heart here. As your coach, I'm going to serve you. If I see selfishness or fear, I just want to help you win too. I'm going to point it out. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm going to encourage you to make a different choice. All right. I'll give you some of the technical stuff too if I see an opportunity to get a quick basket or something like that. But I want to be able to help you with this. And the game that we played with that, geez, we won that next game by like almost 30 points. It was one of the best games. And that other team that we played was a better team than the team we lost to. And so it was an amazing, magical moment. And leaving this, I'm like, well, I stumbled upon something here. How can I run the secret play in life, in a number of different things? And so I do that at work, with my family. I really try to do that. And again, when I see the X's come up, learn from it. Yes, be convicted by it, if you will, but don't get stuck in a place of shame. Because from a basketball point of view, there's no time. Learn from, get back. Get a defensive stop is the idea, right? But that is the secret play. All right. Now, the other thing too with the secret play, it's not a secret that you keep to yourself. Rather, it's the secret to a life that's well lived. Is how I think about that. And so that is the secret play. Now, literally how you run it, practically speaking, 3 different steps here. First one is teamwork. And so I've actually mentioned that or alluded to that earlier, involving others. And the second piece, and involving others in a loving and a humble way, as well as having a low self-orientation. And the second one is called inside out. And what I mean by that is what you produce is an output of what you consume. And so if you put, and from a sports and fitness point of view, if you put the wrong things in your body from a nutrition point of view, don't be surprised if you play an awful game or if you can't meet your fitness goals, right? But the same thing is true from a character point of view, from a learning point of view. What you put into you is what you're going to get out. There's a passage in the Bible that talks about cleaning the inside of the cup. And when you clean the inside of the cup, the outside will become clean. It's a natural overflow and output of what you consume. And then the third one is going all in. Teddy Roosevelt had a famous phrase about the person that's in the arena, going all in and having no regrets, doing those best things and knowing, aware that you're not the perfect person. But if you jump in based on what you know and all that, when those big moments come, you'll at least have the confidence that you gave it your all, even if you didn't win the game. But if you lost the game and you knew you didn't give it your all, that actually stings even more. And it's true not only in sports, but in life. But giving it your all, especially in those big moments, because at the end of the day, when you lay down and go to sleep at night, you know you at least gave it your best shot. And that's the secret play. All right, so quick little activity here that I wanted to do. I've been talking at you for a good little bit here. I want you to get to talking to each other. These are 2 reflection questions, and I wanted you to, and now a number of you have pencils in here. I want you to just reflect on these questions. 2 things. Reflect on these questions. Write down a thought or an answer, and then in a moment, I want you to turn to your neighbor and share what you reflected on. All right. And so again, the first question is, when was the last time you exercised mindfulness and compassion as a result of being in position and ready? And then the second question is, where can you practice mindfulness and compassion through the secret play? So go ahead and just take a couple minutes to reflect on that. Write down the thought. All right, so really quickly, just one quick thing, if anybody's interested to share, just one quick insight or a thought from any one of these questions. Anybody would like to share? And if not, it's okay too. Yeah, just one insight or thought that you may have had.
Hello, my name's Loretta. Wakanda forever. The thing that came up for me actually was thinking in comparison to some folks that I'm close with that maybe haven't positioned themselves to be ready, and having compassion for them when I can kind of see like where the differences lie between us. Why am I positioned well and they're not? And compassion around maybe the way that they're seeing the world, and also mindfulness around how I have positioned myself to perhaps not be in those situations. So in a space of comparison, I've seen myself in that arena.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah. There's one other person. Yeah. There you go.
Yes, for me, it was more of a position of being in position and ready. Like, this was about a business that had to go well, and I knew it was going to be challenging communication wise. So I used mindfulness for a purpose, for the business to go well. Not that it's gonna go well for me, but it's gonna go well for a bunch of other people. They were having trouble like adjusting and adapting and trying to make it work, trying to make the business work. It's coming together fine. It's been challenging, but I realized that if I had that same attitude for the rest of things that are going on in my life, I would be better positioned and ready, like for everyday stuff, like, you know, the day-to-day stuff at home, at the office, etc. Like if I had this mindful attitude of being in position already. Just my thought about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And yeah, as you continue to just digest this framework, I encourage you to keep applying it. And as everybody here, you think about it, I think opportunities will just appear or emerge of how you can be in better position or more ready to make those quote unquote winning plays, or running that secret play. Excellent. Cool. All right. So this picture here, so that's an actual example. I wanted to talk quickly about this thing here. So this is one of the teams I've coached in the past. This is from a few years ago. Very special picture here. And actually, I wanted to just pause real quick and just, what do you see in the picture here? And actually, I guess with the microphones, we may not be able to get to any thoughts quickly, but for the sake of joy, yes, joy. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Just call it out, and I'll repeat it for the folks on video. So joy, excitement. Yeah. Well, it's funny. It took us a couple of takes to get that, but yes, we are. Yes, there's that. It's a co-ed team. There's 2 ladies on the team. Ethnically diverse is another one there. It's a nice day. He's kind of in the suburbs up in the Bay Area, so nice neighborhood, all that type of thing. So that's what you see on the surface. Now, a couple things that you don't see. You can't necessarily tell by the picture itself, but the player's skill level was pretty wide. There were a couple players on this team that were really good, like they were great, and then a few others that were extremely new to the game, period. And so you have a wide range of skill abilities, right? Plus the co-ed piece, which this makes this a very unique, and these are high school players, so this makes this a very unique high school level team, all right? There's one other thing that's there, is that one of the players is neurodiverse. And so just the experience of information coming at you, learning literally basketball plays and just how to do different things with a number of things going on, that's actually, this player, just takes in information and processes it just in a different way than others. And that player is my son, actually. And he is the one that's 2 people over to the right, his left hand's poking up in the air. My daughter is the one all the way to the right. So I have old children up in the air. But with that, it's created a very unique opportunity, for a couple of reasons. The sentimental side of me is, as a coach, former player, you'd love to have the opportunity to coach your kids. And this was that one opportunity right there. And I even tease them a little bit and tell them, like, this is like one picture of like however many years I have left on earth. This is going to be one old pictures I'm just going to just love to death, because it was all of us together having a great old time and making some wonderful memories. The other thing with this too is that we created, using all these different wide diversities of skills, gender, all this types of thing, we created a special atmosphere of mutual empathy So the more skilled players encourage them to help out the ones who are less skilled to help build their confidence. I jumped in and worked out with them, in terms of practices and stuff like that. So just to demonstrate that, hey, I'm willing to run sprints too. We're going to do this thing all together. I taught a bunch of basketball plays and skills that really help build their confidence in game situations. And it created a wonderful dynamic to where on any given game or on any given day, whoever was on the floor had the confidence and the skill to either be in position or be ready or to run the secret play, whether there were ups or downs throughout the season. Now, the cool part is, and this is one of the reasons why we're jumping up in the air, we ended up winning the league championship for that year, which is super cool. Super cool. Because if from another point of view, you would argue that that team has no reason. But for some reason, we just kept on winning, which is super cool, right? So we ran the secret play as well as some basketball plays too, and we ended up having a bunch of success. But the cool part is that we created an environment, a situation for these high school kids to be able to have an experience that they won't forget, and hopefully they'll keep paying it forward in their interactions as they go. So that's just an example of the secret play in action. All right, last piece here is just talking about Google. How I've seen mindfulness and compassion happen at Google. And I'll start by stating the obvious. Google's a huge company, all right? They do a lot of amazing things. There's a bunch of toys there. You probably heard about the food that's there. That's good food too. They got gyms. You can get a massage at work. They got mindfulness spaces, meditation rooms, nap pods, communities. Like there's a bunch of stuff. And it's pretty cool. All right. But the other thing too is that, just like any other company, we got our problems too. And challenges. We're not perfect. Just Google us and you'll see good and bad when it comes to that. So, my point is that, we're human beings as well, trying to do that. But the one thing that I do really appreciate about Google is how the company really invests in the well-being of its employees. And with that, and I think this is pretty much true with just about any work situation. Your personal experience in a company is directly related to like your relationship with your boss or your immediate team for the most part. Is that. And that is true for my team. And what I do again at Google, I oversee the operations for all the health and wellness things that we offer. And the cool part about that is that we actually practice what we preach, which I'm really encouraged by. And so here are just some quick examples of how I've seen Google be in position as well as be ready. A lot of this is just from the news. We just like everybody else, we had to shut down our offices too in 2020, pivoting to the work at home situation. A number of conversations were happening around that, and we did it. And then vaccinations is another one, figuring out what the future of work will look like. Again, a number of, things that just in terms of just figuring it out, for a global company, how would this work? And then when it came to reopening the office, which is what we're doing now, a number of starts and stops and pivots based on where you are in the world and what the variants are doing and what the numbers look like and all that. And so being able to consistently be in position and ready and keep learning, because sometimes we're in the wrong position and got to relearn and get in the right position, and just having that willingness to work hard. And then the secret play, when it comes to returning to the office, the willingness to explore what the future of work looks like. And we're still figuring it out. I know a lot of companies are trying to figure it out, but those are a couple of bullets that things that we're looking at, like things like a flexible work week. And so the typical pre-COVID 9 to 5 days a week you're in the office. In my opinion, those days are pretty much over. In the post-COVID, hopefully post-COVID world, it's a hybrid thing. More flexibility around where you work and work-life flexibility, and then different things around resilience, different resources and communities to be able to just keep that experience as active as possible. There's a lot of work we're still continuing to do with that. Involved in a number of conversations to keep that process going. There's a number of secret play types of things we're trying to figure out as we go and as we learn. But those are some things or examples of how I see Google's been working in that direction. And then the last quick example here before we close is that's my boss. And so this is where it always gets tricky here if you want to talk about your boss at a conference. But this is a podcast that he did, and I invite any of you to check it out. But this is my boss, Newton Chang, and he has a special story here when it comes to what we're talking about. He was raised in a Chinese Filipino family where mental toughness was emphasized and vulnerability about weakness was marginalized. Now, according to him, Asian Americans use mental health services at a much less rate than the general population. And for me as a Black man, I can definitely relate to that because typically, mental challenges or mental health things are usually marginalized and stigmatized. And so Newton realized that what he was called to do was needed. He needed himself to go beyond the narratives that were put on him. So similar to what I was talking about earlier with my challenge. And so he actually ran the quote unquote secret play. He actually chose courage and love, and he decided to be vulnerable about his struggles. And he actually went on mental health leave. And he talks about this in his podcast. So this is not, blockbuster news or anything like that. He actually talks about this in his podcast and his journey, which is a huge, journey in being loving and having courage to just talk about that and make conversations like that more normal because we're all human beings. And so he is actually reclaiming his narrative so that he can show up as the husband, the father, relative, friend, and leader at work that he desires to be. And so I'm definitely grateful to be able to be a part of his team, to have an example like that literally in front of me, because we work together all the time, and to have that culture of permission be there. And so with that, the last thing I wanted to show you here, I wanted to read the verses to this here. This is called, this is Bigger from Beyonce, from her, the Black is King is it. And so it reads, if you feel insignificant, you better think again. Better wake up because you're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. Understand the truth about that question in your soul. Look up, don't look down, then watch the answers unfold. Life is your birthright. They hid it in the fine print. Take the pen and rewrite it. Bigger. You are part of something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than we, bigger than the picture they framed us to see. You're part of something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than the picture they framed us to be. You're part of something way bigger. And so in closing, I encourage you to continue to change the narrative through mindfulness and compassion. Be in position, be ready, run that secret play because us, we're part of something way bigger. Thank you.